All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Governmental Affairs. We have a slim crowd here today, but we do have a quorum, and I feel like they'll begin trickling in the next few minutes. The members will. Welcome to the Capitol. If you've never been before, I hope you enjoy your experience today. I have a few rules that I'm going to give you before we begin these two hearings, and then we will start a clock because we're being fair to all three cities. All three cities are going to get 1 hour of testimony. Well, one's already had it. I'm sorry. One had it last week, and the other two will have their hearings today. Today, if you will, please make sure you silence your cell phones. And please note that this meeting is to hear these two bills, and that no vote will be taken today. It's a hearing only. There will be no applause, no outbursts, cheering, unruly comments. If there are, we will either, I don't feel like we're going to have this, but we'll either have folks removed or we'll adjourn the meeting. To optimize time, please take your place in line. I will call on a number of people, and if you will just go ahead and get behind the other right there at the podium, and then when that person finishes, you can step right up to the podium. When it's time for you to speak, please introduce yourself. If you're with a group, feel free to identify that. And the way that this committee meeting will work is is that you, Representative? Surely. Anyway, the way this process will work is our sponsor of the bill will come forward and present the bill. We will take questions from the committee members, and then those who want to testify, we have a sign-in sheet. And where is it, Craig? Oh, he's picked it up already. So we'll begin hearing from after the questions are posed to the sponsor. We will take your testimony and look forward to hearing from each of you who have something to say. So, okay. All right. Our first bill today, and we're going to start the clock now or as soon as I call the bill. What is the bill number for Briarcliff? 665. And it's 110 right now, by the way. All right, so we're going to start the clock now. Representative, would you please come present your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to ask Alan Bennett to join me. He will be the first speaker on behalf of the city of Briarcliff. I am very grateful for this opportunity and very grateful for your time. You're going to have an opportunity to learn a lot more about my district in DeKalb County than you ever thought you might have a good opportunity to learn, and I appreciate your time and your attention and your fair consideration. I thought that the hearing that the chairlady conducted for Tucker was a very fair and very good opportunity, and I look for similar opportunities in this long afternoon to understand some of the dynamics of DeKalb County and the wishes of my constituents. Many things are unique about our position before the General Assembly today. First, one of the uniqueness is I'm the only member of the General Assembly who actually lives in one of the proposed cities. And in fact, House District 82, from this map in relation to the support for Briarcliff, goes below the Emory campus up to through the overlapping areas of Lakeside, would be the largest city of DeKalb if this body favorably reports the city of Briarcliff forward. It also is a city that overlaps with Lakeside significantly. And the three cities overlap in other ways too in relation to some commercial properties that you'll hear about. Previously, what has come before our committees and our General Assembly have been proposals for new cities that have had no overlapping borders and no real competitions in this committee, and competitions with other existing cities have come afterwards. For instance, after the creation of the city of Brookhaven, you know that Brookhaven and Chamblee engaged in some competition over some commercial areas. So that's part of our realities. We have a very good operation of existing cities in DeKalb County, all of whom have annexation plans, and we have good proposed city proposals, and there's a great deal of overlapping and confusion. And I give you those little bit of details because it is important to note that this set of propositions for you to consider is different and significantly different from previous actions of this committee. In effect, you are asked to redraw borders or to tell which group of citizens borders you prefer. And I think that's a very difficult job, and that's why I wanted to highlight that as a unique circumstance in relation to our posture today. There are two other matters I want to address just in terms of where we are historically in relation to the city of Briarcliff and its competition, fair competition with other cities and proposed cities, and some technical issues about this process we're involved in. The creation of cities in DeKalb County has been essentially up until now, previously to us, a northern partisan effort versus a more southern partisan opposition. These three cities are a much more complex mixture of Republicans and Democrats and a much greater mixture of diversities in terms of international populations. The proposed city of Briarcliff is about a third, roughly a third minority, but our minority compositions are African American, Asian, Hispanic, and we'll get further details on that. The commercial area, although it's nonprofit commercial area, is a between $3 and $4 billion entity of Emory University campus, which is 600 to 700 acres, that goes beyond Emory and includes the CDC and the Veterans Hospitals and Children's Health Care and many other entities in a very complex and energizing entity of universities, colleges, and healthcare institutions which are vital to this state. Emory is the largest employer in DeKalb County by far. The lack, and I've said this in past years and I say it more importantly this year, the lack of a comprehensive planning process for our citizens to engage in to make a proposal that is best for all three proposed cities or best for the rest of the county has been lacking. And prior to the 2012 session, I think, I introduced with several other legislators House Bill 22 that would have provided a very specific planning process for us to engage in. This set of dynamics of new cities and old cities and counties will come to your county. And what planning process will come for those, all of us included, between my district and your district, Representative Hightower, which is the spread of suburbans and suburban areas and diverse groups, will come to our counties, and the lack of a planning process is very significant. We will hear probably today, as we have previously, from the county who wishes to engage further in a planning process. And in fact, CEO Burl Ellis, before he left office, had one theoretically in place, and it was more than theoretically, he had operationally in place. So as you look at all of these proposals and try to make independent, fair judgments about how we proceed with one set of city proposals after another, you're going to have to do that without a comprehensive economic planning system for DeKalb County. And that is a problematical dynamic. The other matter that I think is more technical that I want you to be aware of, and I'm sure that there'll be ongoing discussions with Gina Wright, who's been incredibly helpful to me and to all of my folks. Thank you very much. Head of the reapportionment offices, is that the reapportionment office today wishes to draw maps or feels that it's obligated to draw maps in terms of census block data, and that is not precisely what I want in terms of a variety of different border issues. The other option of a meets and bounds description will protect the various cities that wish to be protected in one way or another. And we have a technical problem here that we don't have to address today, but as we move forward in drawing these maps, how do we define the territories in the maps? Let me give you the good news, and I think this is very important. This is the most important thing I can say. The good news is that DeKalb County is actively engaged in a citizen-driven activity to decide how they wish to be governed. It is active, as you can see. It is engaged, as you can see. And it is positive for almost every regard. I think the engagement of citizens in choosing how they wish to be governed is a positive dynamic for our county. Whether our county is at the top of its life of service or whether it's kind of a little bit in the ditch every once in a while, it is a positive set of discussions. These folks are here because they are engaging in the political process. And as we know, it's difficult to make everyone happy in the political process. But I say to you that the 75,000 to 80,000 citizens of the proposed area of Briarcliff are engaged, are here to ask for your help, ask for your respectful consideration of the city they wish to create, and will give you many, many reasons, which I totally support, as to why House Bill 6065 in the city of Briarcliff is an appropriate step for the Georgia General Assembly to pass in 2014. And I'd like to begin at this time with a little bit of a planned presentation from the city of Briarcliff, if I may so, Madam Chair.
Certainly.
Thank you, Representative Oliver. Madam Chair, members of the committee, we very much appreciate this opportunity to speak to you. I am Alan Bennett. I'm the president of the city of Briarcliff, but we are a broad, diverse group, and so I'm going to speak briefly, and then some other members of my group are going to fill in our official time. Rather than being jack-in-the-box, they're going to line up and speak over there. But okay. I'll give you just a brief overview first. We're here to discuss local government in my community, and the community of most of the people in this room, North Central DeKalb. And we're here also to ask you to support cityhood. We believe that new cities in general, and the city of Briarcliff in particular, are a way forward to help our residents, our neighbors, and all of DeKalb County. The new cities are not the answer to every problem, but I think that the cities, new and old, that have shown that they do a better job of bringing efficient, effective, low-cost, locally driven government to their residents. Everyone in this room sadly knows that there are multiple cityhood proposals for our part of DeKalb County, and it is regrettable that the volunteers of the three groups have not been able to work out our differences. We all share the blame for that, and we do look to you as our elected representatives to make the right choices with regard to local government in DeKalb County. So as you do so, please remember that this is a bipartisan matter. As Representative Oliver mentioned, our area, all three areas, have many people who are Republicans and Democrats, and the Briarcliff movement has Republicans and Democrats. The core group of volunteers that has met at my dining room table literally more times than I can count includes many Republicans and Democrats. And I would say that if I can let these people into my house, the members of this committee can help us form a bipartisan city. So with that, as you make your choices, I think that we would encourage you to keep three key principles in mind, and they are bipartisan principles. The first principle is that everyone deserves a vote. Everyone in the area that is involved in all three cities deserves a vote. They deserve the right to say whether they are included in a city or not. Briarcliff is the only proposal inside the perimeter below the existing cities of Brookhaven, Doraville, and Chambly, thank you, and above Decatur and Avondale Estates. We're the only proposal that gives everyone in that area the right to vote, to say yes or no whether they want to be in a new city. And we think that that is very important. Local governments should work together, and that is why our volunteer group, in response to requests, has worked with Representative Oliver, Representative Drenner, Representative Henson, and the leadership of Decatur, Avondale Estates, and Clarkston, each of whom has published an annexation plan, and we have adjusted, tweaked, I'd like to say, the bottom border of our map to allow those cities to progress with their annexation plans, and we think that's appropriate because those plans would give those people the right to vote. So again, everybody in this part of the area should have the right to vote. The maps are dynamic, and we understand that. And again, though, as the committee is perhaps reluctantly forced to look at the maps, please keep in mind the idea that everyone should have the right to vote and not leave any areas out. The second point is that the borders should be logical. The borders should make sense. And again, I would submit that the Briarcliff map, more than any other, has borders that make sense. We all live together, and we're going to continue to live together wherever new city lines are drawn. And because of that, we really believe that the lines should be logical. We do not believe that there should be any orphan communities, that the county is still responsible for providing all services to those areas. Call them islands, call them peninsulas, what have you. That's not fair, that's not efficient. So again, everybody should be in. Or frankly, everybody should be out, but we think everybody should be in. And with that, honestly, and this is a little off script, members of this committee have said that they do not want to be the one to draw the maps. And I would submit that it's going to be very easy for you to allow everybody in the 3 overlapping cities to have a vote by simply approving Briarcliff and Tucker, and you only have to draw one line, and that line is as broad and as straight as an 8-lane expressway. So with that, it would be very easy to approve the maps. Finally, new cities should be financially strong. The rules of this House require that any new city proposal has to raise the funds and have a fiscal viability study done. And Briarcliff is very proud that the Carl Benson study of the Briarcliff proposal not only shows that we are financially strong, but it shows conclusively that we are financially stronger than any other proposal before you. So with that, again, in summary, if you would please see that any new cities, that everyone gets a right to vote, that the borders are sensible, and that the cities are strong, we think that Briarcliff is the one proposal and the only proposal that excels in all 3 of those, and we ask for your support, and we very much thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for your comments. So you're going to speak, you're going to testify on behalf?
Well, we sort of have a tag team approach.
Okay. Go ahead.
We have several people here. All right. First off, thank you, Madam Chair and committee, for this opportunity to discuss this. My name is Herman Lorenz, and I'd like to explain why I'm here. In 1976, my wife and I looked all over the area to find a place to build a dream home. We found a spot in what was then called North Lake and is now Oak Grove. Neighbors on one side, both of them worked at CDC. Across the street was a Emory pharmacist. His wife worked at Emory University. Down the street were more people, Emory and CDC, and a few people who worked at North Lake Mall. We knew it'd be a great place to live. DeKalb County has changed over the years, and probably not for the better. And the area is not as preeminent as it used to be. We started the City of Briarcliff initiative for 3 reasons. One, we want to help DeKalb County. Secondly, we want to help the state of Georgia and the legislature. And third, we want to help ourselves. First off, we will help DeKalb County. This is not a city design that cherry picks the good and leaves the bad for the county. We have 11% of the land mass of the county and 12% of the 911 calls. We have $1 million homes and $10,000 homes. We'll shift approximately 6% of the county revenue to the city, but we'll shift 14% of the population and the biggest expenses of the county related to those people. will allow the county to focus its services on a smaller area with almost all of its money still available to do that in a smaller area. Secondly, we're going to help the legislature. You only have to look at a map to see what's coming with a proposal like SB 270. The next legislative session, you'll have to do something about the hole at the bottom, the south end. The following legislative session, you'll have to do something about outside the perimeter. A combination of Briarcliff and Tucker with a logical and clear border solves the entire problem for the entire area. The third thing is that we want to help our community. And it's no secret that there's a problem in governance here, and that needs to be fixed. But the problem won't be solved simply by changing some elements of the county government itself. A CEO or non-CEO style doesn't change what we have to deal with. Super districts or no super districts doesn't change what we have. What we want and need is local control and the ability to take actions that will promote our own community's growth. We want a strong, locally controlled process that will permit us to select and pay for the municipal services in our area. We ask you to vote for HB 665, and thank you.
Thank you. And I need to do this a little differently because that is testimony. And I do need to call a couple of people up first, and then we'll proceed with yours. And Herman's not on my sign-up list, but I know he's with y'all. So give me just a minute. Let me call up a couple of people first, and then we'll get back to the testimony. All right, I need to call up Lee May, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and representatives and leaders. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to the broad issue of incorporations in DeKalb County. I'm a broken record now, so you all probably can hear my statements. I've shared them with the proposed cities. I've shared them with the current cities looking to annex. I've shared them with you, Madam Chair. I've shared them with the public, with the media, and all who would listen. The issue of incorporation is not innately a bad thing, and this is probably a new message from the county's perspective. In times past, you've really seen those areas that were looking to incorporate and the county really at heads end, bumping heads. One saying, yes, 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 this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and one side saying, no, this will be to the absolute detriment of DeKalb County. I'm not here to make those claims here today. One is not the best thing and one is not the worst thing. But I am here to talk about process and the way in which areas are allowed to incorporate and how the county's engagement in that is really critical for the ultimate success of our county as a whole. If you listen to any of the proposed cities that will be before you, that have been and will be before you, they all share this one common theme, and that's about it. But the one common theme is they are committed to DeKalb County. They are committed to its success, and I believe them. I take them at their word in that, but it is the process itself. And part of the reason we're here today really is because of state law, and no offense to you all, but there is really not the clarity that state law should have where it's related to how areas are incorporated. There are some areas within state law that also does not include the impact on the county itself. Now, the same state law that allows areas to incorporate in DeKalb County is a state law that will allow cities to incorporate in Lowndes County and whatever county that you may represent. And so there are some things in state law that really have to be fixed and adjusted to really make this a better process for those who are looking to incorporate as well as the county as a whole. So with that being not a part of what you're able to use, you're now called to make a decision of winners and losers. You have three proposed areas that are looking to incorporate that share similar boundaries. They are all have the North Lake Mall area included in them, unless there's been some adjustments that we have not seen as of yet. And so you're going to have to make a decision from outside of DeKalb County about the future of DeKalb County and really make a home rule decision, even though you're not located within DeKalb County. And so what we are really offering is, and I heard my representative, Mayor Margaret Oliver, state that she's heard commitments in the past. And I said, Lord, why does she do that to me today? But I'm hoping that my actions and my willingness to talk to everyone involved will show that not only I, but the Board of Commissioners are really, really supportive of us all sitting down at the table. Because of the back and forth and the discussions and sometimes arguments, rough debates about borders and what cities will look like, you know, my role as Chief Executive Officer has now become really the role of Chief Counseling Officer. And I look at that as being an important role, as getting us all to sit down at the table. So the Board of Commissioners just a couple of months ago passed a resolution overwhelming in support of a cooling off period. This 1 year period where there will not be a decision regarding cityhood in this session. And throughout this process between now and before the session begins next year, there will be a substantive conversation, a committee, a task force that will be created to address newly incorporated areas, annexation of areas, the impacts on county, and beyond. And we think that is the right approach to allow us to comprehensively plan for the future of DeKalb County. As a result of that, there's been joint resolutions that were put in place by both the House and the Senate calling for a resolution to create a commission that will have appointments from various legislators from the county, from the chamber, from key stakeholders, proposed cities. I think we'll have a share in that as well, and current cities that will begin that process. But they've also looped into that the governance structure of our county. If you've heard me talk about it, I'm a Democrat from South DeKalb County, and probably for the first time you've heard someone with my party and position and geographic location saying that I support a change in our form of government. But again, that shouldn't be force-fed. That should go through a process. And so this joint resolution will encompass the governance structure as well as a part of this larger conversation. So what I'm asking from this committee and from the entire General Assembly is to trust us that what we have put forward, that we will move it forward in a manner that will bring back recommendations to this body so that the decision that is ultimately made is one that we all know will be for the benefit of DeKalb County. Frankly, I believe the incorporation movement is well along the lines. It's a mature reality, and we do have to address that. I, for one, think we should have a fully incorporated county, but that's not for Lee May to make that decision. Let this process, help determine what that looks like. And so we're asking you not to have to decide who's the fastest runner to the finish line, because that's what is being asked now. You have a couple of weeks left in session, and I don't, for one, see a resolution that gets us to an informed and substantive decision that we can all feel like is going to be for the betterment of our county.
All right.
So with that, I'm going to say thank you for
Thank you. And I didn't even ask the committee if there were questions for the sponsor. Do we have any questions for the sponsor? None. Okay. So do we have any questions for the CEO? None. Thank you, Mr. May.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm going to call up Charlie Harmon, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Representative Oliver, members of the committee. I'm Charlie Harmon, and I'm Vice President for Government Affairs at Emory University. Emory's objectives have been to maintain a unified campus and to provide Emory with the most options and alternatives as we go forward into the future in terms of our governance. We are aware that we are a part of the proposed city of Briarcliff. We recently were able to remove ourselves from the city of Lakeside, and so I wanted just to reiterate our objectives.
In terms of the city of Lakeside, quite frankly, we would like to be removed. We're well aware of the census block or census tract way that maps have to be drawn, and pending how that goes in terms of the committee process, we would support some type of pause, if you will, to more fully understand what would be best for these cities, the citizens, and for the county. So with that, Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the speaker? No questions. Thank you. All right. So, sponsor, you may continue with your, but I'm going to ask, if you will, we have, we're now at about 28 minutes. So we have about 32 to go. I have 18 people signed up on this sheet. And so it will behoove all of us for everyone to take maybe a minute or less to continue in this conversation, if you don't mind. I mean, let's go ahead and keep going, but
It's a fair suggestion,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Representatives, thank you for the opportunity to speak at both Tucker's hearing and today for Briarcliff and Lakeside. My name is Keith Hanks. I live on Wilson's Crossing Drive in Decatur, unincorporated DeKalb. I'm the youngest member of the Executive Board of the City of Briarcliff Initiative. My primary role is to facilitate communications and strategically assist messaging for a constant changing dynamic process. I hold an MBA. Professionally, I work with advertising agencies. I know a lot about marketing, how to connect with consumers, different demographics, and different psychographics. I'm also speaking to you today as a young Republican. That's a point I want to reiterate to this committee. My background includes executive level young Republican leadership positions, including how to recruit a younger generation of Republicans. This is something that the governor himself pointed out as an important factor at the May 2013 Georgia GOP convention in Athens. I bring this up because there's an unnecessary stigma that cityhood has to be a Republican thing. Briarcliff is bipartisan and proud to be bipartisan. Too often that's a dirty word. Inside the perimeter of unincorporated DeKalb is bipartisan. Our fear is because of the way that we're structured, that we could be the best idea that never happened. Every time you go a little bit deeper inside the perimeter, it gets a little bit more Democrat. And we actually suspect Jason Carter's home may actually be that epicenter. This is also why Lakeside looks to cherry pick outside the perimeter within the Tucker community, and why they abandon many unincorporated neighborhoods inside the perimeter. Is this the message that we want to send? Live in a primarily Democrat area and you're off the map because it's too difficult to include you? Some of the nicest areas and some of the nicest neighborhoods in Atlanta are not on Lakeside's map, and they're inside of Briarcliff's. These happen to be heavy Democrat voting areas. Why exclude them? We took the best ideas from Republicans and Democrats, and using the guidance of this committee, our feasibility study came back the strongest. Briarcliff is a city that any fiscal conservative on this committee can support. Cutting this as soon as I can.
I know, we need to move on. I'm sorry. I've got to move on.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
though.
you.
I'm Amy Munn Parker. I'm an independent. I'm neither Republican nor Democrat. I think both have good ideas and both have bad ideas. I'm a second-generation native Atlantan, second-generation lifelong DeKalb County resident. My father grew up in a modest home over in Oakdale and went to Druid Hills, and he was one of the builders that helped this area of the county that we're discussing as part of Briarcliff become a reality and the suburban oasis that it is. I bought my mother's house in 2002, so I've been continuously involved in this neighborhood of Leafmore for almost 63 years. Growing up, we all thought of our community as not just the attendance area of the long-closed Briarcliff High School, but the entire area that's now what we consider inside the perimeter. We sort of hung out down to the city lines where the liquor stores were. We knew right where the Atlanta border was. We went down to Emory. We went down to Ponce. We went skimming across Decatur and Avondale and out to Tucker. Tucker at the time did include some of what is now inside the perimeter, and that seems to have been a bone of contention. It's about the only thing that the Briarcliff people and the Tucker people have not been able to amicably decide is how to divide that area that was Tucker before 285 was built. There's been a lot of talk about the rest of the area that Lakeside did not want to take part in their city inside the perimeter, and this is, to me, the people I grew up with. Many of my classmates and friends had bought their parents' homes, as I did, and they've also moved back in. Their children have moved in. We have a sense of community among the Jewish community, the Greek community, and the Catholic community. We all went to high school together. The parents worked at Emory and CDC, and we had a huge international experience. We were diverse before they called it diversity. I think we need to maintain this sense of community that we've had for so long, and that the Lakeside plan is very divisive. I think there's room for the city of Briarcliff and Tucker to come into being, and I would appreciate it if you people could manage to make the decision that we don't seem to be able to make for ourselves as to where that border should be. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to tell my committee members, if you have a question for the speaker, to please get my attention or hit your button, but otherwise I'm not going to ask that question. Go ahead. And I really need to encourage y'all to pick up the pace. We still have 18 people who want to speak, and we're looking at timeline of how much time? We have about 27 minutes to go with 18 people signed up and the rest of the folks that you go ahead though.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I'm Bruce McGregor. I'm a longtime resident of Druid Hills and a past president of the Civic Association. I'm a mostly retired city planner. In past lives, I served as the planning director of the Georgia Building Authority and established the Georgia Main Street Center when I was at the Department of Community Affairs. Druid Hills residents have supported Briarcliff financially, and we've drafted much of its city charter. Many of us believe that Briarcliff provides our best path forward for land use planning and for historic preservation. Some of you may remember last year where you helped defeat an anti-historic preservation bill last year. Thank you. Druid Hills and Emory are intrinsically linked. We have the same parent. The Druid Hills Land Company donated land for the campus and developed our neighborhood. My own street was developed for faculty housing when Emory and moved its main campus to Druid Hills in the 1920s. When we moved here many years ago, many of my wife's professors lived within walking distance. My children's Sunday school teachers were theologians from Emory's Catholic School. Druid Hills High School was originally a school for faculty children and located on the Emory campus. Glen Memorial Church is owned by Emory. Emory, in turn, is owned, at least technically, by the Methodist Church. A large portion of our residents are Emory graduates, professors, and staff. Others work at CDC, Emory University, Emory Hospital, Children's Hospital, DeKalb Medical Center, and the VA Hospital, all within Briarcliff. We greatly benefit from having these world-class institutions in our neighborhood. Emory equally benefits from its location within a nationally recognized historic district. Having said all this, Druid Hills, like most neighborhoods, wants to participate in our future. While some would like to keep all options open, that window is rapidly closing. I believe that Briarcliff provides the best option for our future welfare. Properly constituted, and this is important, properly constituted Briarcliff with Emory, Mercer, and Perimeter College can become another Cambridge, Berkeley, or Highland Park. This benefits all of DeKalb. This is not a zero-sum game. Finally, we're very concerned about being isolated from the rest of central DeKalb. Do all of us think this way? I doubt we all agree on anything. However, I think we all do want a vote. Please allow us that vote and support the City of Briarcliff initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all of those that who you brought with you? I'm glad I have a list, and I'm afraid we're not going to get to everyone on the list.
I'm going to help you. I'm Jeff Bragg from the board, and I will yield my time so another neighborhood person can speak.
Our presentation is done.
All right. Thank you. Cindy Johnson. And on deck is Steve Richards. 23 minutes we have until we start the second hearing. And we have 17 to speak.
Okay, my name is Cindy Johnson, and I've owned a home in Medlock in unincorporated DeKalb for 19 years. And up until last week, we were part of the city of Briarcliff, and now we're excluded from any cityhood. And so that really reinforces the request that you've heard all along, and so I won't take all my time to read what I've written to say, please help us resolve this issue so that we can all have a vote on whether or not we want to be included in a city. Thank you.
And you know what? We pay attention better when you speak like you just did. The reading, it throws us off. So thank you very much. Steve Richards. And up on deck is Richard Dietz. Dietz, one or the other. Dietz.
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I've got some stuff here, but in the interest of time, I'll try to be quick. This is a first for me, and I stutter some, so I'll try to be just quick as I can. But,
don't be nervous with us.
Very good. I'm a homeowner in La Vista Park for 8 years. La Vista Park is a neighborhood along and north of La Vista Road at the western edge of the county. If you consult the map over here, where the green stuff right below I-85, right at the edge of the county. We are framed roughly by La Vista, Briarcliff, Sheridan, Cheshire Bridge, which is in Atlanta, so we're slightly to the east of that. Additionally, I'm the president of the Civic Association in La Vista Park, representing over 625 tax-paying homeowners. As you might guess, so some of our homeowners would like to be a part of a city, and others would like to stay unincorporated. But all would like a chance to vote on it, and that's at the heart of my point here, really. If Lakeside is approved by the Assembly and is on the ballot rather than Briarcliff, La Vista Park will be shut out of the process. If Lakeside comes into existence as currently drawn, its western edge, which is the corner of La Vista and Briarcliff, comes up against us. La Vista Park and Woodland Hills on the south side of La Vista would be completely cut off from the rest of the county. One part of unincorporated DeKalb would become a small island over on the western edge of the county. My question would be, how long does it take for a DeKalb County officer who's stationed over in the middle of the county to respond to a call out on the western edge of the realm there, okay? All these changes would affect us, yet we would not have an opportunity to cast a vote on it. That's unfair and candidly unacceptable. The bottom line is that tax-paying homeowners of La Vista Park want and deserve a chance to cast a vote on incorporation for Central DeKalb. We only get that chance if Briarcliff is approved. So accordingly, I urge you to include everyone in the process and to please support the Briarcliff proposal over the Lakeside proposal. Alternatively, reject them both and tell the organizers to come up with a plan that works. Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right, we have 20 minutes, and it's Richard Dietz and then Ronald Faust, I believe. You did it right. Thanks.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'll make it very fast. All three cityhood movements share two things in common. They are a bit tired of corruption of DeKalb politics, and they all want a sense of identity. Going with the city of Briarcliff and the city of Tucker, we can work together, and so many more voices are heard by making Tucker and Briarcliff work. Lakeside, 86 is a lot of people out of that aspect, and I think a lot more people's voices could be heard if the Briarcliff movement and Tucker movements were accepted. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Ronald, and up on deck is Stuart Brand? Anyway.
Yeah, my name is Ronald Faust. I live about a half a block from Druid Hills High School at 1916 North Decatur Road. I won't be included if the Lakeside proposal is accepted. Most of my points have already been made, so I'm going to address one other point. I initially decided that I really wanted to stay in unincorporated DeKalb. But when I saw this process work its way through, it became clear to me that there was kind of a backroom agenda going on by the committee that was formed to form Lakeside, and that there was an open agenda committed on the part of the people that were trying to form Briarcliff. You have already heard the facts, so I don't need to repeat the facts. But at the same time, I'm one of the people in central DeKalb that is very discouraged with what's happening in DeKalb County and the services that are not provided. I'll give you one example. There's a little 4-foot section of concrete on a sidewalk on North Decatur Road that is very well used by high school students to Druid Hills and Emory students. It was on bicycles and pedestrians. That section of concrete has been missing for 30 years. I had someone from the CEO's office come by, and I showed him all the problems with our sidewalks. He went back, and I never heard from him. So I'm saying that that's just one example of many examples of poor services on the part of DeKalb County. Now, I will say this. If we decide on a moratorium, nothing's going to happen. I've been living with politics for my 74 years, and I understand that nothing is going to happen. There's going to be a lot of talk. Parallel example. I taught in college in Indiana 50 years ago. I left because I got tired of committees sitting down, solving the world's problems, and talking. That's what I expect is going to happen.
I'm a teacher. I get
Thank
that.
You. Thank you.
Thank you. Stuart, and on deck is John Merlin.
Hi, I'm Stuart Brand. I live in the Victoria Estates neighborhood, and I support a moratorium on cityhood. And I believe that cityhood is a form of economic segregation, and this type of fracture would be a step back for Atlanta. Bailing out of the city is not a long-term solution for the tough issues of a growing metropolis. Problems of scale need to be answered using creative, innovative approaches by leaders with forward-looking, open minds. The city too busy to hate must set the standard for unity and find a way to work for the common good.
Thank you. John Merlin and then Amy Parker. Okay. I didn't mark you off. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Merlin, and I live over on Emory Road in Druid Hills. I'm a Republican. My father graduated from Druid Hills High School in 1941, so we've been there a while. But I'm very much a supporter of Briarcliff because it includes everything between Brookhaven and down to Decatur, whereas Lakeside leaves these big pockets. And if you see over there on the left, there's a big pocket over by Briar Vista Elementary School that's completely left out. And how you would get county services over there efficiently, I don't know, because that would be between Brookhaven, Atlanta, Lakeside, and that's a mess. To me, the whole map looks like a mess.
It does to us too, I can promise you.
Looks like a little appendix there, but I think Briarcliff is definitely the fairest way. It shouldn't be political. I don't think Lakeside would get a Republican city anyway. I'm a Republican. I would live in Briarcliff. Maybe we would have slightly more Democrats, but it's a fair city. And that's, it's not politically oriented. It's a bipartisan effort. And the other thing that I would like to mention that's not a factor right now, but could be down the road, 3-5 years, if city schools develop, Lakeside has grabbed a large amount of the Druid Hills High School district, which would further decimate, the Druid Hills High School because it's taking out some of the most affluent areas. Laurel Ridge Elementary, Druid Hills Middle, and some other areas north on Claremont are in Druid Hills High School district, could be affected down the road in the future if we go back to city schools. Druid Hills had been independent school system prior to World War II, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, John. And up next is Donna Newman, and then on deck is Bruce McGregor. Oh, Bruce did just speak. Thank you again. So Donna and then Betty.
Thank you, committee. I am in that little wing that's left out on the end that includes La Vista Park, Martin Marietta, and Woodland Hills. And from the looks of the currently drawn map, all the places that we spend our money in the majority of DeKalb County are now being sent to a city that gives us no representation. And I would just like the opportunity to vote.
Thank you. All right, Betty, and on deck is Angela, and we have about 14 minutes.
I will relinquish my time other than to say Briarcliff is the way to go. I support the city of Briarcliff.
Thank you. All right, Angela, and on deck is Martha.
Thank you for your time. I'm a 20-year resident of DeKalb County, and I am ready for cityhood. Briarcliff makes the most sense. Is geography destiny? You're going to have to look at the map, pick out the perimeter, pick out I-85, and fill in the rest. That will conform the best to the Briarcliff City proposal. That is my suggestion and my hope for your decision.
Thank you very much. All right, Martha, and on deck is Susan Bell.
I'm Martha Pacini. I live in the Victoria Estates neighborhood, which just for point of reference, you could probably hear the Yerkes monkeys from my house. The process that has led to all of these cities and all of these maps has been less than inclusive and less than transparent, and I would encourage all of you to please find a better way. There has got to be one, and we have to find it. The way I look at it is, if I were going to get a zoning variance on my house, I would have to have more public hearings, more public involvement, and jump through more hoops than you have to form an entire new city. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't want anything that I said to be construed as taking the county off the hook, because quite frankly, our county needs a laser focus on it in terms of getting an internal audit function and a functioning board of ethics and cleaning up the mess that's there. So that is my situation right now. I hope that you will vote to pause this and clean up the county instead.
I hear your passion. Thank you, Martha. Susan Bell.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm
And on deck is Jean Reeves. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, thank you for your time. Susan Bell. I'm a resident of DeKalb County for over 28 years. Lived in city of Atlanta, DeKalb County, which at the time was high taxes of the whole county, and now in Victoria Estates, unincorporated DeKalb. I support a pause on cityhood for at least long enough to study the unintended consequences. I don't believe people fully understand, and our citizens aren't being fully informed about the long-term implications. The sum of the parts can't possibly add up to anything but more than the whole, but the county does need to be fixed. And so I think the state should pause, study the process for cityhood, including things like boundary setting, economies of scale or not economies of scale, and what makes the most sense. And then after a sufficient period of time of objective study and fully informing all citizens, then decide whether to move forward on referendums. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Jean Reeves, and on deck is Don Hoyt.
Can I give you this book?
I have that book in
You
my
have it already?
office. Yes, thank you, though.
I'm Gene Reeves. I'm from Tucker. I don't oppose the Briarcliff or the Lakeside, but I want to speak for Tucker because I'm very passionate about it. We've been there since 1970, and we raised our family there, Brockett School, Tucker High School. I went to Georgia Tech. When I was at Georgia Tech as an engineer, learning to be an engineer, I worked for the telephone company. I came out to Tucker. I ate at Matthews Cafeteria, and I knew what a great place Tucker was. So when I moved to Atlanta, was transferred here by a Clorox company as a manager, I picked Tucker, and we love it. And so we're really upset because someone's trying to take our community away from us. It's a community that's kind of hidden there. Everybody's friends. We have great relationships, and we just hoped everybody would just leave us alone. Back when Gene Cofer was there, and the other leaders in there, they talked to Manuel Maloof. He said, "Don't worry about Tucker, I'll take care of you." Well, we find now he's gone, they're both gone, and we're going to take care of ourselves. So we act like a city. We got the downtown beautiful street. We have the CID, Community Improvement District. We have the Civic Association, and we're really working on Tucker to continue to upgrade it to be a great city that everybody knows in the world just about that it is. So I say, don't let anybody take us away. Don't take our land away. It's not fair to take the footprint of Tucker away that's been here for 121 years.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. All right, Don Hoyt, and up next is, I can't read the first name, Meyer is the last name.
Madam Chairman, representatives, thank you.
First, I want to say I'm very, very sympathetic with you guys. You work under enormous pressure. We all read about it. We see it on the news. You try to do a huge amount in a short period of time, and I'm sorry you have to deal with this. So I would say that, quite honestly, if you put it off for a year, you know what? We're all still going to be here in a year. I don't think anything terrible would be lost. I, like Steve Richards, live in a little island over on the west side of DeKalb County, La Vista Park. We are very, very concerned that if Lakeside comes to fruition, we will be isolated. We are somewhat obviously resentful that the stores where we shop, like the Whole Foods and the Starbucks, which will be incorporated because of their commercial value, are in fact not going to be part of our neighborhood. They're not going to be part of our city. And we think that at the very least, those of us who are going to be affected, and implicit in the talk about what happens in Lowndes County or in rural Georgia, is that there, when you're incorporating a city, basically there's no other city right around there. But what we're doing is dividing up an existing urban neighborhood, and we would just appreciate it if you would give us all who are going to be affected by this the opportunity to vote on it. And the city of Briarcliff is the proposal that does that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Meyer and then Frank. Where's Frank? I've seen Frank.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm Lewis Meyer.
Lewis. Okay.
Lewis. Thank you. I've been an Atlanta native. Well, I've lived in Atlanta all my life. I was born at what was Emory Children's Hospital. My father was I guess the first president of NPUF in the city of Atlanta. And in 1984, my family bought a home in unincorporated DeKalb County, and we have immensely enjoyed being DeKalb County residents. And I think that either a moratorium or getting DeKalb County fixed is probably the most expeditious thing. But if you have to have a city of Briarcliff makes by far the most sense. Our house is located in Woodland Hills. That was mentioned by a couple of the La Vista Park folks. We're right across La Vista from them. And it's very disturbing that we have quarterly meetings that are open to everyone, and we have been approached twice by City of Briarcliff and never by Lakeside. They're just simply not interested because we are just too diverse a community. Woodland Hills and La Vista Park would be orphan communities, islands, and services coming from DeKalb County would both cost more and be less available under City of Lakeside, and that just simply isn't true under City of Briarcliff. It is obvious how City of Briarcliff wants to work with its neighbors, and you will see many attendees here that are supporting both City of Briarcliff and City of Tucker because they have shown an obvious urge to work together. City of Tucker just makes sense. And City of Briarcliff just makes sense. And City of Lakeside doesn't want to make sense. Everyone should have the right to vote on being in a city, not being excluded and being affected by a city and then having no voice in it. So I urge the legislature to move ahead, allowing City of Briarcliff to move ahead to a vote. Thank you.
I believe next is Frank, and I can't pronounce the last name. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
The next one is Marion Gordon. Go ahead.
Thank you, committee members. I rise, I'm a member of Tucker 2014. I rise in support of Briarcliff in the sense that a quick look at the map will tell you that we agree on a whole lot more than we disagree with. If it's the will of the committee to forward those two cities back to the Senate, we can in very short order reach an agreement with the small area of overlap that we have with Briarcliff. The threat, the destructive aspect of all of this, and the thing that needs healing beginning right now with a proposal we're making, is the Lakeside proposal. We have submitted to them more than once, but within the last week, a proposal that simply chooses I-285 as a line, representing a huge concession on our part to say we'll concede the whole North Lake area, the whole part of our map that lies inside the perimeter, if you'll concede the outside part of the perimeter and those areas that are up there. Here's why that's important, and I'm not going to take very long. Tucker's the only city that doesn't preclude the other cities from forming themselves. You can do Tucker, Lakeside and Briarcliff can work out their small differences. We can send two very strong, very unique cities with two different communities of interest forward for referendum. It protects the heritage, the character, the neighborliness in each city. And it does that better than, a two-city proposal does that better than the Lakeside map. It does it better than a mega city, and it does it better than doing nothing. We want to hear Lakeside explain why their proposal does those things, encourages more local control than theirs or than a mega city or than doing nothing. We want to hear why every person in those areas shouldn't have a voice and a vote. We've put the proposal out there. We're expecting an answer. We're trying to do what you've asked us to do. We've not heard a coherent argument as to why a two-city proposal doesn't do the trick. And I want to say one other thing by way of brotherly warning. I just spent 4 years as chairman of the DeKalb Republican Party, so there's been a lot of lies told about how we're a Democrat operation just trying to gum up the works. The Republican Party is verging on giving itself a very, very big black eye over this, and I say this as a member of it. If this process ends up with a view that, I believe I'm correct, that not a single Republican in the House represents a single voter in the areas under discussion here. Amen. If the Republican legislature takes local control out of this question without a single representative who lives in the area, the Republican Party is going to be left with the perception that this is what you get with a Republican majority. It's not the image we intend to project. It's not the way we operate, but it's a very dangerous course that we're on. So the partisan part of this takes a very big role. I don't envy you. God bless you in your work. God bless you in your decision making. God bless our county. And we're counting on you to do the right thing here in the House. And by the way, thank you for doing the right thing by having these hearings.
Thank you, Frank. Marion Gordon, and we have 1 minute.
When I moved to DeKalb County 42 years ago, it was the shining county on the hill in the metro area. It can be again. It should be again. Let's pull together. Let's don't draw divisive lines.
Thank you. All right, Representative, you have 40 seconds if you have anything else to add.
Madam Chairman, I'm grateful for your time. I know this is a busy time of the session, and we all haven't had the opportunity to hear everyone. And when the committee reconvenes, I'll probably have some more comments. I do think, though, that Briarcliff has cooperated with Tucker, cooperated with existing cities, cooperated with proposed annexations. The movement of our map is out of respect for our neighbors. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to all who spoke, and I appreciate your testimony today. All right, so perfect timing. Yeah, we are going to move on to the second bill, the second hearing, and it will be on Senate Bill 270. Let me tell you where we are with this. We have 60 people signed up to speak on this bill. So what I'm going to do, Senator, is I would like, I realize I have a list of folks that I'm not real sure who wrote it. Did you write this?
No, not the chair. That came from.
This came from a committee?
No, one of our citizens.
Okay, a citizen. All right, I also have 43 who signed up on this. So we need to figure out a plan, because I'm telling you, when we start the clock, you're getting an hour, and I'm going to be fair to everyone.
Why don't you alternate, ma'am?
What'd you say?
Well, I suggest maybe alternate. Or for and against?
Or what if I put it back out there for a few minutes, and anyone who feels like they want to waive is free to do that? Here, Craig, thank you. Just want to remind those just who speak,
There.
just you don't need to repeat each other's comments. All right, I'm going to remind the audience, the committee, of the rules. Please turn off all your cell phones if you've come in since I gave those before.
Put one of those chairs in here.
The meeting is to hear the second bill also. We will not be taking a vote today. Please do not applaud, outburst, cheer, jeer, no unruly comments.
Where's the Google map?
Any person in violation, we will have you escorted or we will adjourn the meeting. We will call up members as we get this list finalized. We'll call folks up and I'll have them on deck like we did before. And I'll probably need to limit time since there are so many. And you have 1 hour when we start it. And my timekeeper here is about to. Senator, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
We can't wait to hear about Senate Bill 270. I'm glad to have our good senator here.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
Ready?
Am I on?
You're on.
On. Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I'd like to talk about the City of Lakeside bill, which is SB 270. I'm not here to talk about the Tucker and the Briarcliff bills, except to say that I've been in the General Assembly for 16 years. Starting with Sandy Springs, I have supported every city that's come through. In fact, this year, I think, for the first time, with the city of South Fulton, I believe that's the first time of any of our Democratic members that have served in the General Assembly have supported the city. So I'm glad that that's happening at this point. We have tried to work. I got involved with the city of Lakeside about 13 months ago. They had gone to the senator in that area, one of the areas there, and as we all know, he's doing other things right now, to be fair to him. They've also talked to the representative of that area, and at the time, there had never been a bill carried by a Democrat going forward. It's not politics, it's just a matter of fact. I'm not criticizing him, I'm just making a statement of fact. And because I've thoroughly supported self-determination, I said I would do that, particularly since I have precincts that are involved here. And that's why I did it. This bill, during the course of the past year, I want to talk specifically about provisions in the bill because I think it's very important. First of all, we talked about a little bit about politics here. None of these cities, whether it's Briarcliff or Lakeside, at this point, they are not Republican areas. If you go look at the voting records, all these areas went for President Obama. So it's got nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, trying to get control as a Republican of the city. This proposed bill has 5 regular districts, 2 at-large districts, and what we call the weak mayor system. And we're talking about roughly 14,200 people in a particular district, with about 35,000 in the at-large districts. Contrast that with the county commissioners with about 140,000. And you've heard all these people, whether it's Briarcliff, Tucker, et cetera, that there's been obviously issues in DeKalb County and they're looking for local control. And I will say this to you, whenever a city comes up, I will plan, if we can get borders worked out down the road, I'll support it. But this is the only bill right now. Part of the issue was, in the contrast, I tried to put the Tucker and the Lakeside people together for a couple of months. We didn't get anywhere. The services we were talking about for the Lakeside bill were public safety, zoning and land use, public works, parks, and recreation. The Tucker people are not interested in police services, which is fine. That's their business. But I will tell you, after watching all the new cities, they will tell you the police service is probably the best thing they've got out of all of this, including getting their roads paved, et cetera. The Carl Vinson Institute did a study. Mr. Harmon testified over here from Emory University. He came to me and said, look, we really don't want to be part in, part out. I said, okay, Charlie, we'll do this. We'll take you out. That's what we did. That's what this does. When we did that, the surplus that we were talking about initially was probably about $5 million based on the Carl Vinson study. It goes down to probably $2.5, $3 million as the surplus at this point. I guess at this point, what is really of interest to me, Commissioner Boyer, who represents this area, she is not in favor of the borders of the city of Lakeside, which I understand. By the same token, we had a meeting in her office January the 7th, myself and representatives from Lakeside and from Tucker. She proposed at that meeting that we create a megacity. We put the two together, much like a Sandy Springs. That was 2 months ago. During that time frame, they have lobbyists that they've hired, so on and so forth. The day I presented this bill in the Senate, I was out with the lobbyist at that point, telling me he's working on the megacity, okay, and he'll be getting back to me. Well, folks, it's a week later, and he's never gotten back to me. That's his business, I guess. But I'll tell you what concerns me here. We've got 70,000 people here, people that I represent, and we're going to give you these Google Maps, okay? And I've got a book here. A lady back here, Liz Hanfield, will testify. She lives outside 285. I've got over 1,000 pieces of paper here where over 2/3, almost 70% of the people in the precincts that I represent say they'd like to be part of the city of Lakeside. I've got it by neighborhood. It's broken out. I'll share the whole book with you. You're elected representatives. If the people that you serve, these aren't the other senators, I serve these people. They've elected me. They want to be in a city. If 2/3 of those people, okay, come to you and say, we want to be part of it, then you would support them. I have no doubt in my mind about that. So I don't believe there's going to be another city this year. I don't want to leave people behind. And that's why I'm the advocate for this particular bill. I think it's that important. Now, down the road, if Tucker has a city, if Briarcliff has a city, and we get the boundaries worked out with the other cities, I will more than be happy to support them. But I will promise you this, and I said this on the Senate floor, and this is very important, Madam Chair. This is the last city bill I carry. It's the last part of my district that is not incorporated, okay? And what I also said on the floor, which with all due respect to my friend Mr. Allman, I've read correspondence, I did not say I'd work this out with Tucker. What I said was, I'll support the city of Lakeside or the mega city, just like Commissioner Boyer proposed. And that's what I've tried to do. So, again, at this point, I thank you for, going through this. The good news is, this is the last year I'll be carrying it. Because, I've had enough. I've already had the one heart attack. But seriously, I do really believe that strongly in self-determination. I've even got an opponent out of it. I believe so much in self-determination. And look, I understand people's feelings. I even thought, I'm planning maybe to do this, I think, next week, if you're going to have a hearing on this bill on whether to vote on it or not. I'm going to probably change the name. Because I think Lakeside and Tucker, there's too much of a high school rivalry. And maybe it'll be La Vista, maybe it'll be North Atlanta, which was used once before. But something, so down the road, if people in a certain area want to be annexed in, they don't feel like they're giving up their identity. But I will tell you, myself and Commissioner Boyer have worked very hard on this. And her chief of staff is here today, and he'll confirm that. But I tell you what, since my particular political party took over control here, we have always given people the right of self-determination. I hope we'll continue. With that, I'll yield the floor and let Mr. Levitas and some other people speak.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Levitas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm really, those of you who know me won't believe what I'm about to say, but I'm really going to be very brief, and I don't have that much to say. I thought Senator Miller, as usual, did an excellent job of presenting the bill, and we thank him for his sponsorship of the bill. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about what our group is, and really I think it's best to hear from the citizens. This is a citizen-led grassroots effort that's been going on for well over a year now, and they are the reason that we're here. The money was raised locally, the effort has come locally, the people that walk neighborhoods with me to leaflet, it's all been local. So I think they can really tell you what their community is all about. I don't need to do that. What I will tell you is just that the Lakeside Community Alliance came together back in really the early part of 2013. There were some cityhood meetings, and they were really very informational about what cityhood is, what the process is, and those meetings ended and there was not that much done. A group of us got together and said, look, this issue has been simmering in our community for years. Why don't we take the time, and if not us, then who, to go around the community, find out if there is interest in the city. Senator Miller was at that first meeting that we had at Lakeside High School in our district, and I think he and certainly we were stunned that we had literally an overflow crowd of over 600 people. Somebody in the audience asked for a poll of who was interested, just a straw poll, of who was interested in studying cityhood. And I would say maybe 10 hands, 15 hands out of the hundreds that were there were not interested. So that's where we began. And we have held well over 75 community meetings over the last 13, 14 months, and began with a map that looked very different than this. But what we have done is gone around to the community and met with stakeholders and said, essentially, do you want in, do you want out? And we've had some folks come to us on their own and say either they want in or they want out. So we have changed the iterations of the maps to conform with what the people in those areas want. Where we are now is that after having raised the money, had the feasibility study, had all of these meetings, we're now at the space where Senator Miller's SB 270 has crossed over from the Senate with overwhelming support. It was, I believe, a 32-17 vote, and there was a handful of folks who didn't vote at all. One of those made more news than the other. What we're asking is really very simple. It's an opportunity to vote. And the reality is that if this bill doesn't go through, cityhood is dead in DeKalb County. You heard Senator Miller say he is not going to carry it. But you have a chance now to give citizens the right and the opportunity to vote on something that they've asked the right to vote for. And all we're asking is that you do that. With that, Madam Chair, I would either yield for questions or we can begin to have the speakers come up.
All right, we do have a question from a committee member, Representative Oliver.
First of all, I want to assure you that I don't want you to have a heart attack either, and nobody else died.
I'm down here.
You said in your conversation that this was the only bill, city that could go forward.
No. What I'm saying is the only bill that's come forward from the Senate.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
You are not asking this committee to make a decision based on partisan politics, are you?
No, I'm not, based upon the fact of how the presidential votes are in these areas. This is not Republican, Democrat. Look at the numbers.
You're asking the committee to make a decision based on what makes the most sense.
I'm asking the committee to let these people have the opportunity for self-determination, because there's a complete bill here with all the duties and powers, et cetera, that are in front of you. It's the only bill that is complete in that manner.
I believe that the complete 665 is in the committee folders, but I will withhold further comments.
Thank you. Representative Mosby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator, when you had this meeting with the commissioner from District 1,
yes,
did the Super District Commissioner, was he part of this meeting?
No.
So it's two commissioners that represent this area, and you only included one of them. Why is that?
She called the meeting.
I'm still.
Wasn't my meeting. She called the meeting, as her chief of staff will tell you.
All right. The original amount that the Carl Vinston Institute study said Lakeside, the surplus, how much was that?
$5 million.
$5 million. And it included, the boundaries have changed.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimate on what those figures are now?
Yeah. Former Representative Levitas has got it right here. I'll be happy to share it with you. It's $2 to $3 million is what the surplus would be. It's got the breakout right here for you. We can give it to you.
All right, so there is...
Recomputed based upon taking the Emory area out at Mr. Harmon's suggestion, which I concurred with.
Okay. So it was a $2 million loss.
I think roughly. What's the exact number?
More than that, probably. The deficit into the surplus is probably 2.9.
2.8.
Something like that.
So you end up with about $2 to $3 million surplus, as it shows right now.
Okay. And this, in my understanding, in the Senate, you really don't need the CBI Institute, that study to make these changes and move the bills forward.
No, because we're still showing a surplus. And I will tell you, after being through all the numbers for all the various cities over the years, at the end of the day, whoever we elect to become council members and mayor, et cetera, the budget really changes. Dunleavy's a good example. I think we doubled our police force, what was originally in the Carl Vinson Institute, and yet we showed a surplus for 5 years, because if you have good fiscal management, you can make it work. The bottom line is, if I remember right, all of the groups, Briarcliff, Lakeside, and Tucker, all of them would be positive without North Lake Mall, for example. I think Mr. Allman, I remember him testifying to that. So, yeah, we'd all be positive without that, too.
Okay.
So the numbers are still all there, yes.
All right. And finally, Mr. Levitas, I disagree with you. If this doesn't pass, it doesn't mean that cities are dead in DeKalb County. I think in this region, Gwinnett, Cobb, you'll see more proliferation of cities pop up between now and the time Fran has another heart attack. So.
Sure. One brief comment. I will tell you, based upon serving in the Senate, they probably, if there's a dispute that comes back over there, it's dead. If it can be worked out with somebody going forward, no problem. But I think they've probably had enough also. I wore out my welcome, as they say.
I could probably speak on behalf of this committee and say it would be beneficial for all of us if there could be an agreement worked out. But I'm just glad to call Lowndes County home. But anyway, did I say that out loud?
There's a lot of DeKalb County residents may agree with you.
All right, here's the deal. It looks like we don't have any other spokespeople or anyone else with a question on the committee. So we have 45 minutes to speak, and I'm very strict on this because I have asked Ways and Means to bump their meeting a little forward to 3:15 instead of 3 o'clock because of the fact that we started at 1:10. So you have 45 minutes, Senate Bill 270, to bring people up, and it doesn't look like we dropped many folks off the list. So I'm going to encourage everyone who comes up to speak, and I will call them in order based on this first list, and then we'll go beyond that to go forward. But I'm going to ask you to please, I'm talking 30 seconds or less if you can. I'm going to encourage you not to read because that takes so much longer. Speak from the heart. That's the best way, and we certainly accept it even better if you do. So up first is Brad Bryant. Behind him is Liz Hanfelt, Wes Hutchinson, Alan Ballard, and Bill Kushner. Hey, Brad. It's great to see you.
My name is Brad Bryant. I have been a resident of the proposed city for 57 years. My grandmother taught for 25 years. My wife taught in the area. The 2 points I would raise would be first the capacity to self-govern, and my experience as a resident who has been involved and who has served as a local school board member and in other capacities is that there is every bit the ability to do that. And what I would say, having worked as a local school board member, is that there are different communities of interest that you're grappling with, and we need to be careful that as we put them together in the effort to try to do that, we don't undercut the whole reason for which we would like to see self-governance. The second point I would make would be about the urgency of this, and my son and daughter-in-law have moved back into the proposed city limits, and they're looking forward to getting involved. But what I've seen is that it's a group dynamic of despotism that Lakeside in particular suffers from, and that is that we are the tail of everybody's district. We have 4 representatives that are ours. We have 3 state senators that are ours. We have 3 congressional districts that are ours. And everybody says, well, that's a great thing to have. You have more voice. And what I would close with is it's like the farmer who was asked if his 2 daughters had straight legs, and he said on average they did. One was knock-kneed and one was bow-legged. And for us, it is extremely difficult to have a clear and consistent voice, and I'm here today to speak in favor of SB 270. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Liz Hanfelt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Liz Hanfelt, and I live on the very edge of both the city of Lakeside and the city of Tucker. Maps, just outside I-285. I'm the lady who coordinated or organized the petitions. I do not oppose the city of Tucker, but I do oppose their map, which separates me and my neighbors from the community that we most identify with. Tucker is a great community. My family and I enjoy visiting Tucker Day celebrations just as we enjoy going down to events in downtown Atlanta. But we simply do not identify with Stone Mountain, Smoke Rise, or other politically active portions of the Tucker community, which is where most, if not all, of the Tucker 2014 leadership live, including Mr. Frank Allman, who spoke earlier. I believe that there has been a concerted effort to make you think that no one in this overlapping area wants to be included in the city of Lakeside. This is not true. When the city of Lakeside organizers announced their intention to seek incorporation. There was a great deal of discussion in my neighborhood, with many of us hoping that we might be included. My neighbors and I took it upon ourselves to get word out to our community. We went door to door and got 1,000 signatures on a petition requesting Senator Fran Miller to include our area in the map of the city of Lakeside. Senator Miller has responded to the will of his constituents who have asked to be included, and for that we are most grateful. Obviously, there are neighbors in this overlapping area who do not agree, and perhaps they are in this room today. Nevertheless, the 1,000 petitioners are, in my opinion, a better representation of the general will of the people in my area. We share a common vision and desire to be included in a vote on the City of Lakeside. Thank you for supporting Senate Bill 270 for the City of Lakeside.
Thank you, Liz. West Hutchinson.
Thank you for the opportunity to come here and talk today. I'm honored to be here to represent my community. I live one street over from the street that I grew up on, and I'm proud to say that my family's lived in DeKalb County since the 1820s, one of the original founding families of DeKalb, back when DeKalb actually stretched all the way over to the Chattahoochee River. Some of you may not know that where we are today actually used to be part of DeKalb County. So the point is that the boundaries have grown, they've shrank, they've changed over the years. There's been cities that have come into existence. There have been cities that have dissolved. There have been annexations and growths of existing cities and shrinking as well. So I'm here today to speak in favor of SB 270. I'm very excited about the opportunity to have people that live within my community represent me and have local control of our community. So thank you for your support and hopefully your support of SB 270.
Thank you. Alan Ballard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've lived in unincorporated DeKalb for almost 40 years, and it's just gotten too big. The commission districts are now 10 times the size of these proposed city districts, and stuff that the county should be doing right is now just falling through the cracks. So let me just give you two examples. When I came home the day after Christmas 2 years ago, and my front door was kicked in, the house looted, and the police officer got there within 45 minutes. I wasn't too impressed, but I found out later 2 hours is more of the norm in that area. So go around the corner and look at a zoning example done in these huge commission districts. And that's a low-rent, extended stay motel that's been there a while. We had the solicitor come out and explain to us why they can't do anything about it. But just in this year alone, I want to give you the reported crime stats for this rezoning right on the edge of our neighborhood. 8 larcenies, 4 acts of vandalism, 3 burglaries, 6 drug and assault violations, and 4 assaults. These things would never happen in a small town that's paying attention. Apparently, there's no end to this in DeKalb County. It's just gotten too big. And so I support this Senate Bill 270, and I hope you all will let us vote on starting a new city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill, and up next will be Jennifer Tiberia, Katie Wendell, Barcia, or Barsha, I'm not sure, Chastine, Urad, thank you, Alemu, and Wanda Walton.
Thanks, Madam Chairman, for allowing me to speak. My name is Bill Kushner, and I live in the Salem Crossing Townhome Association in Tucker, just outside of 285 in what some call the contested area, where the Lakeside and the Tucker proposals overlap. I am here in favor of the Lakeside bill for a number of reasons. I've studied the issues and attended meetings of both the Lakeside and Tucker initiatives. I consider myself a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. I've been to a number of meetings in my area where neighbors have repeatedly talked about concerns relating to crime and the lack of a quick and timely response in our area of the county. Our adjoining neighborhood, just 1 block away, was on all the local news channels for just such a problem. Also, mention has been made on a number of occasions of all the poorly maintained roads in our area, with my street being one of them. The county confirmed to me as chairperson of our association maintenance committee, that repaving schedules for our old repatched road are 10 years in the future at best. That being said, the Lakeside and Tucker proposals are very different in their objectives. For me, where I live, this is a tale of two cities. One city being formed to tackle some of the big problems of county government, such as public safety and public works, with new locally controlled solutions, and another potential city with its leaders trying fiercely to protect what they see as the status quo in the past. The fiscal and pragmatic side of me demands that I support Lakeside City with the important services it will provide, which will truly improve my life, but are unfortunately not a part of the Tucker proposal. Please support the City of Lakeside Bill SB 270.
Thank you. Jennifer, Tiberia.
Hello, hope everyone's having a great day. Sure, right?
Dandy.
All of you down here. I'm a resident of DeKalb County and in the Lakeside area. I've been a DeKalb County resident for close to 20 years, but my husband and I own 2 businesses in DeKalb County. And I'm coming from that standpoint that DeKalb County, and I don't know how other large county governments are, it's the most difficult county to deal with from a business owner standpoint. Licensing, build out, fire, getting a new liquor license, everything. And my employees having to get licensed, it's ungodly difficult. And I'm for the city because we just opened a second restaurant in Lilburn. Let me tell you how easy it is to deal with the city government. So I walk over, I hand them my paperwork, I get back what I need. I call them on the phone, say, hey, I need something, I get it done. Because you have a relationship with those people. DeKalb County has no relationship with me or my business. They don't care if my business is successful or not, whereas small cities do care, and they help you get the stuff you need and make you successful. When I have a problem in DeKalb County, it takes a whole day or 2 days or 3 days of me sitting there waiting for my number to be called, and then they get and go to lunch for 2 hours. So then I sit there for 2 hours while they go to lunch and come back, and maybe they'll still get to me, or maybe they won't. Or maybe they solve my problem, or maybe they don't. So from a business standpoint, business owner, a city is much better for us than it is for a large county government. So
Thank you. I hear your frustration very clearly. Thank you very much. Katie.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Wendell, and I live outside the perimeter in the Evansdale neighborhood. I have lived in this neighborhood for 5 years. My husband and I decided to buy a house in this neighborhood because of its sense of community, its schools, and its proximity to work, transportation options, and commercial centers. I am an urban planner and strongly believe the City of Lakeside would be beneficial to the economic vitality of my community, as well as to DeKalb County, the Atlanta metro area, and the state of Georgia, through increased economic development opportunities and more efficient use of limited resources. Cities are eligible to apply for external funding opportunities that are not available to unincorporated areas. The City of Lakeside would be able to target these funds to revitalize its commercial and residential districts, creating a desirable place to live, work, and shop, while bringing increased revenue to DeKalb County and the state of Georgia. The City of Lakeside encompasses my community, where my family, friends, and I live, work, shop, and worship, and where our children attend school. The opportunity to vote for the City of Lakeside would give us a voice in the future vitality of our community. Thank you for supporting SB 270.
Thank you, Katie. Barcia or Barsha?
Barsha.
Barsha.
Yeah, I'm Barsha Chastain, and I do also live outside of the perimeter on Cardinal Way in the Midvale Elementary voting precinct, and I am a constituent of Senator Miller. I do appreciate his work there. Our area of the precinct was in the City of Lakeside, removed, and now we're back in again, and I'm grateful for that. I'm very excited about the opportunity, the possibility of voting for that. You've already been told about the petition of many of my neighbors who also want that opportunity to vote. Pretty much my reasons are the same as that you heard, better use of public monies, problems that we've experienced with the county government, that's just a growing population. The county, the present form can't meet the needs the way that it is. I also am wanting public safety to be a part of the new city that I would be, public works and other things, and that is not proposed in the city of Tucker. That's one of the reasons that I am not supporting it. It doesn't supply those services, very important, and I know that the city of Lakeside will be able to be more economic, more efficient in their use of the money. So I do urge you to support Senate Bill 270. Thanks.
Thank you. Yared or Yared? Yared. Yared.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Yared Alamu. I am a trained psychologist, and I am here to offer my services for free.
Anyone?
Looks like you have. Yeah. So it looks like we have a family feud here between. It's one community that seems to be divided into pieces. So I am in support of Lakeside. I live in the disputed area, and I'm excited to be on two maps. So both in Tucker and Lakeside. But I identify much more with the city of Lakeside. I've been actively involved from the beginning. In fact, when the process started, the first thing that we did, me and Liz, she's also a psychologist, but she's kind of keep it quiet. We have designed.
Is she free also?
You have to talk about that. So we have designed a questionnaire. We have freely sent it out to everyone who lives in Tucker, and we're able to collect some data. So we did not come to the city of Lakeside by being influenced by one thing or another. Our initial efforts were data-driven. We have, shared the data with our brothers and sisters in the Tucker precincts. So what I appreciate about Lakeside is there is a level of transparency and inclusiveness. We have been many meetings that we have allowed to share. And I am concerned about there is a people in my neighborhood that appears to speak for me and discount my voice while complaining about other people speaking in their behalf. So I appreciate your consideration of this bill, and thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right, Wanda Walton, and on deck, we have Tim Oliver, Jennifer Hatfield, Buzz Smith, George Randolph, Ben Shackelford, and we have 30 minutes. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Wanda Walton. Since 1998, I've lived in the North Briarcliff area of DeKalb County, just south of North Lake Mall. I bought my house because I really liked the neighborhood, and it was close to my work at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and it felt safe. However, in the last few years, crime has increased dramatically, including home break-ins and car thefts in the same block where I live. And even more frightening, right at North Lake Mall and the surrounding area where I shop and dine, there have been armed robberies of my neighbors who were simply walking to their cars in broad daylight. How can this type of brazen activity continue unless these criminals know that DeKalb County's police response is, to be kind, too slow? We should feel safe in our homes and our neighborhoods. I believe that I should have the opportunity to be a part of a city managed by elected officials who live, work, and shop in the same area that I do. We deserve elected officials who care about our safety and the needs specific to our area of the county. I've attended meetings of both groups, and I believe Lakeside has a better plan and the better organization, and especially as it concerns security and public safety. I support Lakeside and ask you for an opportunity to vote on cityhood. Please support City of Lakeside. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Tim Oliver.
Good afternoon. I'm live within the boundaries. I live in the Mason Mill neighborhood, which is the very southern part of the boundaries. I'm a Lakeside volunteer, and I'm also the head of the Parks and Recreation Task Force. And wanted a little bit of a different twist on this. My particular group, which is comprised of about 12 volunteers, we basically have, in our task force, kind of looked at what's happened with parks in DeKalb County over the past several years. Just to give you a little bit of a background, in 2002, the parks budget was $20 million. 10 years later, it's $10 million. So it's been cut in half. Also, DeKalb County CEO Burl Ellis, about a year and a half ago, created a new public affairs chief position. Basically, he took $125,000 out of the parks budget to fund this particular position. Now, my group, what we've been doing is basically surveying all of the parks that would fall within the lakeside boundaries to basically see what conditions they're in, what would need to be done if we were to come to fruition. And also, our group has basically invested about 250 hours, I would estimate, in trying to come up with a plan, doing the necessary assessments in order to have a vision, a direction for the parks within Lakeside. So I'm here today to ask you to please support our bill to move it forward so that, you know, once again, we can have the parks that we used to have. Thank you.
All right, Jennifer Hatfield, and if y'all could please pick up the pace a little bit. We have lots of folks to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Jennifer Hatfield. I've lived in DeKalb County for almost 40 years. Sunday will be 40 years. And currently I live, thank you, in the Evansdale area, which, just to point out, we are in the northernmost disputed area, which Tucker likes to call Tucker. And it's not Tucker. Our zip code is not Tucker, and my address is not a Tucker address. My husband and I have made our home in the Evansdale area for 15 years. My community is on both the Tucker and the LCA map. Myself and my husband and my children have grown up in, attended school in, and set down roots in our community. Why do I support Lakeside? Our children attend schools in the Lakeside footprint. Our families, friends live within the map's border as well. This is the area we consider our community of interest. We recreate, dine, and shop in this area. We attend a multitude of functions at Lakeside High School, including football games and the school's theatrical and musical productions. Lakeside understands the precision necessary in designing a city map, taking into consideration the nuances of our area. One's community isn't merely their proximity to Main Street. It's about much more than that. The Tucker leaders do not have the right to speak for me and to identify what my community of interest is. They want to claim my neighborhood as a part of Tucker, but it is not. The majority of my neighbors in the Evansdale area prefer the LCA map, as it is a better representation of our community of interest and what our community desires going forward. Now we need your support. Your support of SB 270 supports an intact community of interest, hoping to ensure more local control and better governmental management of local issues. I thank you in advance for your consideration.
Thank you. Bo Smith.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having this hearing. I'm Frank Smith. I live in DeKalb County. I'm here in support of Senate Bill 270, and I'm a retired 28-year veteran of the State Department of Education, 28 years and 2 weeks. And so I know this milieu, and I know that your roles require you to basically know everything about everything. Without a lot of help and not too many thanks. And so I want to take this moment to say thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
And hopefully provide you a little bit of help. You must have bad dreams about statistics and bullet points, but I know that anecdotes are what you remember. So I've got one anecdote for you. If you saw this week's Monday's AJC Metro section, I'm the Frank Smith who was written in there about the steel plates on the road in front of my home that were there for months and months and months. After the new year, and we had the deep freeze, because the steel plates did not protect the pipes underneath them like the earth that used to be there did, they froze and burst and flooded Delia Court. So DeKalb County had to come out and redo the job at substantial expense, I'm sure. I tried calling DeKalb Roads and Drainage, tried calling the CEO's office several times. Oh, we'll tell them. When they came out to do the repair job, I pleaded with the on-site supervisor to please finish this job. He said, oh, yeah, this needs to be done. I'll take care of that on Monday morning. Pause for laughter. That was months ago. Finally, I resorted to the AJC, and the fellow was very responsive. This is just one example, and they are fixed now, by the way, thank goodness. This is just one example of the size and probably predictable sluggishness of response of a county that has more citizens than all of Wyoming, all of Vermont, all of the District of Columbia, not all combined, but each, and about the same level as North Dakota and Alaska. One county in Georgia has as many people as all of those states. So what I'm asking is your help in giving us the opportunity, this is just basic democracy, to vote on whether we want a city or not, whatever that city might turn out to be. We brag to people in other countries about our democracy, and to me, this is where the rubber meets the road, is this kind of issue right here. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your consideration.
George Randolph.
Thank you for your time today. My name is George Randolph, and I live inside 285, just north of North Lake Mall. I live in an area that encompasses all three maps. As a 28-year resident of unincorporated DeKalb County, I've asked myself, what insight might I share with you today? What can I do to help you decide to vote in favor of SB 270? And in doing so, thereby allow my neighbors and I to the ability to make our own decisions on how we are governed and what our future entails. SB 270 represents a simple and well thought out solution to our local and justifiable request. We all come here with different experiences, and as a businessman, I can speak to the critical need of listening to the voice of the customer. My family and I are currently customers of a monopoly government we know as DeKalb County. DeKalb County is an organization which is currently suffering hearing problems. And as you've heard, the problems are enormous in size and in the fact that at the county level, we simply have too many voices screaming for too many different things. The county, while good at some things, has proven to be tone deaf in many. So I'm here before you today so you hear my voice, a voice of a local resident who's looking for a simple choice, a choice to choose a local county, a local city, or continue with the county government, a choice that you'll be putting forth if you vote in favor of SB 270. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben Shackelford.
Thanks for the chance to speak today. My name is Ben Shackelford. I'm a fifth-generation Georgian, a third-generation Atlantan, and a lifetime resident of the city described by the map of Lakeside. We've heard a lot of things talked about today, a lot about community and about, communities being torn apart because the Lakeside map are divided. And, that seems a little backwards to me because the Lakeside map was sort of the first one to start out. It's the one that's actually adapted the most to the needs of the people. They've had nearly 80 meetings to have people's input. The maps squirmed around and changed shape. And that's really how community works, in my estimation. It's not a pretty thing that follows roads. We have bridges. We've had those for a while, and they'll take care of any problem with I-285 and whatever community might or might not exist because of it. To me, it's very important to understand that this process has been organic. It has been ongoing. It has been an opportunity for people to say, yeah, we want in, or no, we want out. And I think you've heard a lot of that today. And I would encourage you to let this organic sort of community take precedent and give the folks in my neighborhood a chance to strengthen it and a chance to vote on SB 270. Thanks.
Thank you. And at this time, we are at 42 minutes, so we have 18 minutes to go. I'm moving on to the next list, and I'm taking these speakers first come, first serve. So the ones who signed up first will come first. Erica Berg. Up next is Marjorie Snook, then Hillary Ford, and Juan
Gutierrez.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. If it were not for this committee, my neighborhood, Victoria Estates, would not have a voice. Let me tell you a little bit about where Victoria Estates is. We belong to the Houston Mill Road corridor. It's a little over a mile long. It dead ends on La Vista on one side, Clifton at the other. My literal next door neighbor is Emory University. I share a border with Emory University. My neighborhood has 150 houses. I share a community with the people along Houston Mill Road and Mason Mill along down to the south side to Claremont. We are all neighbors who came and formed out of the Emory University area. We are now divided. We are now divided. It's very important that you have this voice because totally we're approximately 400 to 450 houses. We would never be heard in a 90,000 or a 70,000 vote. Those people would never have a vote. But right now, the way that Lakeside has drawn its map is it runs up Mason Mill Road, runs down Houston Mill, and divides my community. One thing that's very important, Mason Mill asked me to make this statement particularly, is that LCA has never once talked to them about their neighborhood. They haven't gone to a meeting. And in fact, when Victoria Estates had a meeting, we invited Senator Millard to come speak to us as to why he had once included Victoria Estates and took us back out, and he did not come. He says he has 1,000 letters. I ask you to go to Senator Jason Carter and to go to Representative Mary Margaret Oliver and get their letters, get their emails. You, in fact, I know I've emailed you. My neighbors have emailed you. Check those emails. His 1,000 letters do not speak for our community. My second point, or my final point, is the long-term future of DeKalb County. And I was very glad to see Lee May here today. I happen to be a Republican. Lee May and I don't see eye to eye on many things. Mary Margaret and Oliver and I don't see eye to eye on many things. Jason Carter and I do not see eye to eye. But we see eye to eye on one thing, self-determination. That's Millar's word, right? We don't have self-determination in the process the way it's been set up. And in fact, when you have midnight mapping, as they did at the Senate, where Victoria Estates was in and then Victoria Estates was out, they never once sought the vote of the residents, sought the voice of the residents. So they speak about, I want to have a voice. Well, it has to be a meaningful voice. You cannot have a voice if it's not listened to. We need to be thinking about the long-term future of DeKalb County. We need to be thinking about the long-term economic future of DeKalb County. If DeKalb County does not survive this separation, then we're going to have a situation where the Republicans and the Democrats are going to be left holding the bag. It's going to be the legislators' responsibility to figure out how to save DeKalb County. Right now, if the $60,000 that was done in studies was used to focus on DeKalb County, we'd be far better off. If the energy of these good citizens in support of Lakeside was focused on DeKalb, we'd be far better off. And then the one point I have to say,
we're not going to have any.
The one point I have to say is, when you think about community, and I know that's an important issue for all of you, Lakeside's not a community. It's not a community, it's a high school. Tucker is a community. But Briarcliff is not a community, it's a boundary. So at this point in time, you need to be thinking about the long-term future, having a pause, whether it's 1 year or 2 years, to figure out what makes sense. And I think that was Representative Voller's point. What makes the most sense? The most sense is fix DeKalb County, focus on DeKalb County, and let the citizens then figure out what collectively is their community. Thank you for your time.
Representative Oliver.
I just want the committee members to know that this particular division of Victoria and Mason Woods is really a reflection of the meets and bounds issue that I talked about earlier. This is one of our technical issues about how we do the precise changes. And as we move forward, this will come forward again. I mentioned that earlier, and this is the exact example of why this may be a problem for us.
Thank you. Marjorie.
Hi, my name is Marjorie Snook, and I am a native of DeKalb County. I am in the area that some people are trying to make a city of Lakeside. We've lived there for 10 years, and I'm against it. And I wanted to say, everybody, 100% of the people who currently live in the city of Lakeside voted with their feet to live in an unincorporated area. I think most of them were aware of what they were doing at the time. And in Brookhaven, Brookhaven Incorporated, only 6,000 people, which is 12% of the people who lived in Brookhaven, voted to create that city. So we had 12% of people overturning the choices that everybody who moved into that area made. I moved into an unincorporated area because I liked the lower taxes and fees in an unincorporated area. And I don't think that 12% of the people should be able to overturn the clear will of the majority of people who chose to live there. I also wanted to say, as far as fixing DeKalb County, what we are doing, creating new affluent cities in the north part of the county, that is the status quo. We've been doing that now for 10 years. Has it made DeKalb better? Anybody who thinks that DeKalb has gotten worse in the past 10 years maybe should think that we should try something different than what we've already been doing that clearly doesn't work, and it's not going to work. I love this community, this county, and it breaks my heart to see it fragmented and balkanized and neighbor turned against neighbor and neighborhood against neighborhood and north against south. Whatever some people think, everybody in this community, in this county, wants the same things for their families. And if we want to make this county and this community better and stronger, we have got to work together and not squabble amongst each other. This is a bad idea. This hasn't worked in the past. It's not going to work in the future. Please help us keep this community that I love so much strong and stop with the new cities. Thank you.
All right, reminder, we have to be out of this room at 3:15, and it is 3 o'clock. I think we have 10 minutes to go. Hillary Ford, if you could please keep your comments very brief.
Yes, I shall. I'm Hillary Ford, and I'm here representing the Mason Mill Civic Association. I urge you to vote no on this bill. And the Civic Association supports a moratorium on the creation of new cities, whether it's a year or 2 years, but we strongly support a moratorium. Senator Jason Carter has talked about the cityhood movement, and he says that this movement deserves more deliberation and rational consideration, basically the same point that CEO Lee made earlier today. This Lakeside City movement is at the expense of the rest of the county. In my opinion, it's a deliberate move to secede from areas composed of poorer people and people of color. I want to report the results of a survey taken by the Mason Mill Civic Association. We have 258 households in our neighborhood. The results of the survey were 144 people voted for the status quo. We want to have no new cityhood or annexation. 115 voters were for the creation of the city of Briarcliff. That's 144 no change, 115 voting for the city of Briarcliff, 58 voting for the city of Lakeside, and 24 voting for annexation by the city of Atlanta. And that's a weighted vote, and that's why the numbers don't add up. But that's the weighted vote. So I want to thank you for taking all the time that you're taking to address these issues, but I strongly urge you not to approve this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. All right, 8.5 minutes. Juan, and then on deck, Ed Ewing, Robert Leith, Paul Friedrich, and Michael. Okay. Michael, it looks like Depot, but I'm sure it's not. Pettit, maybe even? Okay, go ahead, Juan.
Thank you very much for your time, Madam Chair. I'm a resident of DeKalb County. I live in the Victoria Estates neighborhood. I'm really concerned about this whole process, and how the Lakeside City Initiative has been going. I question the sense of transparency that have been applying. They have not included our neighborhood in the conversations that we were supposed to be part of. Although we're greatly affected by it. We are right on the boundaries of the city, and if that becomes a reality, that will affect our property values. To give you an example, the park that I go to is less than a quarter mile away. Now it will be part of Lakeside, and I will have no voice, to talk about it. The place where I purchase all my groceries, and the place where I go to eat and dine and party is a half a mile away, but now it's going to be part of Lakeside if that happens. So again, I want you to consider, please, have my voice counted. I need to be able to speak about it. I have a big sense of frustration seeing how this train is railroading our ability as citizens to participate in the process. And again, I plead you to consider our voices. We need to be able to speak, and we need to be able to participate. I consider my property the the highest investment that I have made in this country. And as a result, I need to have my voice counted, and I'm an American citizen. And as a result, again, I need to be able to speak and have my voice counted. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ed Ewing.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, representatives. My name is Ed Ewing. I'm from Amberwood. What is the problem, and would cityhood be the solution? Everyone knows there have been problems in DeKalb County, but has anyone comprehensively defined the problems beyond a mere collection of anecdotes? No, the organizers are relying on impressions. A systematic quantitative study supposedly would be too expensive. These are all smart, experienced, likable, earnest people, but they are manifesting the all too common human tendency to rush to solutions instead of taking on the hard, unglamorous work of defining problems. What does a positive $30,000 feasibility study report prove? A financial feasibility study should not be confused with a viable strategic plan, which does not exist at this time. To some, plan is a four-letter word. What do the 63,000 citizens in the proposed cityhood area really want? LCA organizers have diligently counted all the community meetings they have held, some 75 or more, they claim. But have they actually conducted any polls, sampling even the meeting attendees, let alone the population at large? No, they are relying on impressions. A political poll would be too expensive, they claim. So how many Facebook likes do they have? 600 something, about 1% of the target population. In other words, 99% of the 63,000 citizens have not liked LCA on LCA's own Facebook page. No, I'm afraid this attempt at empire building is all about what LCA wants. Vote no on Lakeside Cityhood.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing. Robert Leith.
I'm speaking on behalf of Robert, or in place of.
I'm sorry.
I certainly don't want to take your spot. My name's Terry Cole, and I grew up in a small town called Elberton, Georgia. Some of you might know Representative Tom McCall. I've known him since I was a child. So I'm just going to give it to you straight in a kind of a no-nonsense sort of way, because that's how we do it in small towns. And Tucker is certainly a small town. I know people think small town values are a little unsophisticated sometimes, but I would tell you that I think that's really the backbone of this whole country, is really small town values. And Tucker embodies that more than any place I've ever seen. In fact, when I moved to Atlanta, that's why I picked Tucker, because it had a sense of community, it had a main street, it had all those things that I had enjoyed growing up. It's really a gem, if you think about it. It sits right outside one of the biggest metro cities in the country, and yet it still survives as a small town. So you have a great opportunity, and that's to protect one of those precious gems. My faith tells me that we are to love our neighbors as ourselves, and I certainly do. I don't begrudge any of my neighbors who want to have self-control just like I do. That's what we're all, asking for the right to do. But what I do ask is that they mutually respect our boundaries. And Tucker is, you could easily decide today to incorporate Tucker along 285. Problems go away. It's very sensible. Tucker's not just a little cute downtown or quaint area. It stretches all the way to 285. In fact, I live in an area that is very close to 285, and that was part of the polling petition drive that was done. And I certainly support and appreciate people who are willing to go door to door. But I want to provide you with an alternate piece of data about that petition, and I don't know if I can hand this out or if we can just pass it around. But
we'll give them out after the committee.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that. But the bottom line of it is basically that no matter how you slice it or dice it, in one contested area, if you look at it as 10,000 folks who didn't sign, 1,000 did. That's about 8% of the people. If you look at 4,000 signers, that's 80% who didn't sign and only 20% who did. That's certainly not two-thirds. So I speak on behalf of a lot of my neighbors who, in fact, signed the petition before the City of Tucker movement was underway, and now would love to get their name off, but nobody can find it or get their hands on it to do that. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul. And you have...
Madam Chairman, I'm Robert Leith, and...
Well, I thought that you gave up your time for her, though.
I did not.
Okay.
So if I could just say a couple things very briefly. I want to be very clear that that lady does not represent my position. I'm a resident of DeKalb County for the past 40 years. I live in the Evansdale neighborhood, and I strongly support SB 270.
Thank you. And Paul, I'm sorry to say this, you and Michael, because I've called both of you. You have 20 seconds each.
All right, I'll try to be quick. Basically, I want to speak in support of self-determination, and the way the lakeside boundaries are drawn, it leaves a lot of the unincorporated areas of DeKalb County in a position where they don't get to vote on self, and therefore, regardless of how you feel about cityhood, I think the way the boundaries are drawn deprives the people outside of those boundaries of the right of self-determination.
Thank
so I
you.
think Bell's
Thank you
currently
very
constituted.
much. All right, Michael. No, Michael. Okay, we're going to give the last 1 minute to Senator Millar.
I'll be very brief. I think what happens when you create a city, 86% of my taxes still go to DeKalb County, so we're not seceding. But the difference is I'm paying 2.7 mils for services that the county's charging 4.9. We're getting the services. You've heard these people talk about police. You've heard the people from my particular area in this map who live in the disputed area, if you will, that want to have the opportunity to vote. I'm not against Tucker becoming a city or Briarcliff. If there's bills brought forward in the future, and if I'm here, I will support those. But this is a bill on the table, and I will tell you right now that this police service is huge. You heard these people testify. Tucker hasn't even addressed that particular issue. So again, going forward, I will ask for your favorable consideration. I'll let Mr. Levitas say one word if we could.
One word's all you get, Mr. Levitas.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Folks in the audience who signed up, I am sorry that there's a sheet that wasn't even heard. I encourage you to email us, call our offices, all those on the committee who will be making this decision in the next week or so. Thank you for your time. Meeting adjourned.